What if I told you that the strongest relationships aren't built on perfection, but on raw, unfiltered vulnerability? Most people think being vulnerable makes them weak. But what if it's actually your greatest superpower in relationships? In this video, you'll discover how opening up can deepen connections, build trust, and create unbreakable bonds, but only if done the right way. And at the end, I'll share one powerful technique that will instantly make you feel more connected with your partner, friends, or even family. Stay with me, because this might just change how you see love forever. One, why we fear vulnerability and how it's holding you back. Let's be real. Most of us were taught that being strong means keeping it all together, never showing weakness, and definitely not admitting when we're struggling. Society glorifies independence, toughness, and the idea that emotions should be locked away. But what if that belief is actually keeping you from the deep, fulfilling relationships you crave? The biggest fear: if I open up, people will leave. Have you ever felt like if you show your real emotions, your insecurities, fears, or struggles, people might judge you? Or worse, walk away? That fear is wired into us. We think vulnerability equals weakness. But here's the truth. Hiding your true self is what actually pushes people away. The science behind vulnerability. Why it's the key to connection. Think about the people you feel closest to. Are they the ones who act like they have it all figured out? Or are they the ones who share their struggles, their fears, their truth? Science backs this up. Studies show that when someone opens up, it triggers a bonding response in the brain. It builds trust, deepens intimacy, and strengthens relationships. In fact, research by Dr. Brené Brown proves that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the foundation of real human connection. But here's the catch. Vulnerability has a right way and a wrong way. Before you start spilling your deepest secrets to everyone, be careful. Not all vulnerability is created equal. There's a way to do it that pulls people closer, and a way that can backfire. We'll get into that in a moment, and trust me, you don't want to miss this next part. 2. The hidden power of vulnerability in relationships. What if everything you've been taught about relationships is backward? Most people think being vulnerable makes them look weak, that if you admit your fears, struggles, or feelings, people will lose respect for you. But what if I told you that vulnerability is actually the secret ingredient to building unshakable trust? The myth of toughness, and how it's ruining your relationships. We're told to stay strong in relationships. Don't show too much emotion, don't let people know when you're hurting, and definitely don't admit when you need support. But here's what no one tells you. When you act like nothing bothers you, people don't think you're strong. They think you don't care. Think about it. How can someone connect with you if they never see the real you? When you hide your emotions, you create distance. And over time, that distance turns into disconnection. The mirror effect. Why vulnerability is contagious. Ever notice that when someone shares something personal, you suddenly feel safe to do the same? That's because vulnerability is magnetic. It works like a mirror. When you open up, others feel permission to do the same. And that's how trust is built. Not by pretending to be perfect, but by being real. The strongest friendships, the deepest love stories, the most unbreakable bonds, they all start with two people saying, "Hey, I trust you enough to be my true self." How vulnerability makes you irresistibly attractive. Here's the shocking part. Vulnerability isn't just about trust. It actually makes you more attractive. Why? Because confidence isn't about being flawless. Confidence is about being secure enough to be real. When you can say, "Yeah, I have fears, but I'm working on them," that's power. When you can admit, "I don't have all the answers, but I care enough to figure it out," that's strength. When you can look someone in the eye and say, "This is me," that's when you become unforgettable. And guess what? The right people will respect you even more for it. But here's the key. Not all vulnerability is the same. Done the wrong way, it can actually push people away. We'll get into that next. And trust me, you'll want to hear this. 3. How to be vulnerable without feeling weak or cringe. So, we've talked about why vulnerability is powerful, but let's be real. Being vulnerable can feel terrifying. You might be thinking, okay, I get that vulnerability builds trust, but what if I open up and it backfires? What if I share too much and regret it later? That's exactly why today, we're not just talking about being vulnerable. We're talking about doing it the right way so it strengthens your relationships, instead of making things awkward. Step 1. Share your emotions. Without oversharing. Being vulnerable doesn't mean dumping your deepest, darkest secrets on someone all at once. Think of vulnerability like a dimmer switch. You don't have to go from 0 to oversharing in one go. Instead, start small. Instead of saying, I feel completely lost in life, try, lately I've been feeling a little stuck, but I'm figuring it out. Instead of, I have deep abandonment issues, try sometimes I worry about being left behind. Have you ever felt that way? This keeps the conversation open and inviting instead of overwhelming. Step 2. The right way versus the wrong way to open up. Wrong way, trauma dumping on someone you barely know. Right way, sharing a little at a time and seeing how they respond. Wrong way, expecting people to fix your problems. Right way, sharing how you feel without making it someone else's responsibility. Wrong way, using vulnerability as a way to get attention or guilt trip someone. Right way, being real because you want connection, not pity. Remember, vulnerability is about connection, not confession. It's not about unloading everything. It's about creating a safe emotional space between you and someone else. Step 3. How to test if someone is safe to be vulnerable with not everyone deserves access to your deepest thoughts and emotions. So how do you know if someone is safe to open up to? Here's a simple test. Step 1. Share something small and personal, like a fear or a struggle. Step 2. Watch how they respond. Red flags. They judge you, dismiss your feelings, or use your vulnerability against you. Green flags. They listen, support you, and maybe even open up in return. If someone handles the small stuff well, they're more likely to handle the big stuff too. Coming up, the #1 trick to unlock emotional closeness instantly. Now that you know how to be vulnerable the right way, there's one more game-changing technique that can instantly make you feel closer to anyone. Your partner, your best friend, even a new connection. And trust me, once you know this, you'll never struggle with deep connections again. Let's get into it. The game changer. One powerful technique to strengthen any relationship. All right, now you know how to be vulnerable without feeling weak or cringe. But what if there was a simple one-question trick that could instantly make your relationships deeper, stronger, and more meaningful? This isn't some complicated psychology hack. It's so simple, yet most people never think to do it. The one question that instantly deepens any relationship. Next time you're with someone, whether it's your partner, a close friend, or even a new connection, pause and ask them this. What's something you've been holding in but wish you could talk about? Sounds simple, right? But watch what happens. Most of us walk around carrying unspoken thoughts, bottled up emotions, and things we're scared to say out loud. This question gives them permission to open up, without fear of judgment. And here's the key. When they answer, don't interrupt, don't fix, just listen. The moment someone feels truly heard, something shifts. Walls come down. Trust is built. And suddenly, you're no longer having just another conversation. You're creating real emotional intimacy. How to create a judgment-free space for emotional connection. For this to work, you need to make sure the other person feels completely safe. Here's how. Listen with full attention. No distractions, no checking your phone. Don't rush to solve their problem. Sometimes people just want to be heard. Validate their feelings. A simple, that makes sense, or "I hear you" can mean everything. Be open in return. If they share, don't be afraid to open up too. When you do this, you'll notice something amazing. People will start trusting you more. They'll feel safe around you. And the best part? This doesn't just work in romantic relationships. It works with friends, family, and even new people you meet. A challenge. Try this and watch the magic happen. I have a challenge for you. The next time you're talking to someone you care about, ask them, "What's something you've been holding in but wish you could talk about?" And then, just listen. No judgment, no fixing, just holding space for them. Do this once and you'll feel the difference. Do this often and you'll build connections deeper than you ever thought possible. Once you experience this shift, you'll never go back to surface-level connections. Now that you've unlocked the power of vulnerability, here's the final truth. Real connection isn't about saying the right things. It's about creating a space where people feel safe to be themselves. And when you master that, your relationships will never be the same. What you'll gain and your next steps. Imagine this, a world where you never have to fake being okay again. Where you don't have to hide your true thoughts, your fears, or your struggles, because the people in your life love and respect you for who you really are. No more pretending, no more surface-level conversations, just real, deep, unshakable connections. Vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's your superpower. If there's one thing to take away from this, it's this. The strongest relationships aren't built on perfection. They're built on authenticity. When you let people see the real you, the right ones stay. When you stop acting tough all the time, you actually become stronger. When you dare to be vulnerable, you give others permission to do the same. And that's how trust, intimacy, and true connection are built. Your challenge, try this today and see what happens. Here's what I want you to do. Ask someone, "What's something you've been holding in but wish you could talk about?" Be fully present, listen, hold space, then just watch what happens. You might see them open up like never before. You might feel closer in just one conversation than in years of small talk. You might realize that the deepest connections come from being real, not being perfect. Let's do this, and then come back and tell me what changed. This one shift can transform your relationships forever, so try it today. And when you do, come back and tell me how it went. I want to hear your story. Are you ready to experience the real power of vulnerability? Let's do this.